2018, Murs broke it down for Hip Hop DX's The Breakdown series and the history of the use of the word bitch in hip hop, showcasing how prevalent misogyny is in rap lyrics. According to the Genius Rap Stats, the word is the second most used word in hip hop, only behind nigga. The reckoning in regards to misogyny and more has been everywhere in 2020, from the Russell Simmons documentary On the Record to titans of the industry wanting to tear down old norms. In her graduation speech to the class of 2020, Beyonce told the class, "The entertainment business is still very sexist. It's still very male-dominated, and as a woman, I did not see enough female role models given the opportunity to what I knew I had to do, to run my label and management company, to direct my films and produce my..."
Welcome back to the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm your host, Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. This morning's discussion question, hip-hop, self-destruction, or government control. Please jump in here this morning with us, 646-787-1691, as you hear a cut where Janelle Monáe, a few years back, called for basically a boycott, I would say, of hip-hop, if you will, with it being so misogynistic. And here's something that I've always said, because it's not that I am defending, in a sense, the messaging, even though I'm highlighting the reality of how the demand is actually more the driver than we want to give credit for, based on partly my inner workings in the industry from the time that I was in, plus, some of the other arguments that, again, Deasia and Supreme Ra are making from the hip-hop school, past and present, which, again, I agree with them. But I would like to highlight, when it comes to the actual messaging, here's something I've always said. The day it became commercially viable to refer to our women as bitches is the day that the black community lost. I'm going to say it one more time. This is my own thoughts, and I've put it out on the Mental Dialogue Facebook page in the past. The day it became commercially viable to refer to our women as a bitch is the day the black community lost as a whole. So now getting into, again, self-destruction of government control, because, I push back on government control. I push back on they having the powers that be, when I understand, from my perspective, that it's literally, does it sell? And if it sells in America, people are going to try to sell it. And for me, that is not necessarily trying to control the community. But when we get back to the messaging itself, some of the things that, Charleston White talked about with Tupac, and he played himself gangster. So it speaks to, I think somebody else called in and highlighted, the Ja Morant, what he's going through, trying to, in a sense, live up to this false image that he's no longer associated with it. I'm very aware of what the messaging does. I like Deasia, like a Supreme Ra, do not lay that at the feet of a quote-unquote they, when that's, in our opinion, not the reality. However, getting to the messaging itself, yes. There's never been a time where humans, in the way that we communicate with each other, we always try to get better in how we communicate, but there's never been a time where certain vernacular, when you're upset with someone, regardless of race and regardless of what language, that all languages have, negative words towards each other. And so at any given time, certain parts of different societies or different cultures may use certain vernacular more than others based on, their upbringing, if you will. So that's always been around. There's never been a time where, again, particularly in the black community, our negative words currently in 2023, as I was just pointing out by that cut, are, niggas the most used word in hip hop, and bitch is the second most used word in hip hop. So those words have been with us for a long time. However, the commercial part is what I pointed out in my own quote. So I'm being very distinctive about, while, that's not how I like to refer to my brothers and sisters personally. I'm not naive to the fact that people will refer to themselves and others in this manner. Again, this is a very normal human trait that may happen to some people. May use it as an everyday word. I used to use nigga as an everyday word when I was younger. So I get that. However, yeah, I am not happy about the commercial exploitation of the word being used in that way, because here's the destructive aspect, and it's getting into the psychology of normalizing and referring, for those who may do this, to every woman, quote unquote, as a bitch. That's very obvious, but the deeper psychology of it is adding to, in a sense, a devaluing of ourselves. So I'm very aware of, in a sense, the narrative, the American narrative of us valuing ourselves less. I'm very aware. I'm very aware that this music plays into a narrative that's already in place. So I in trying to distinguish the nuance of what I'm saying, I am highlighting that, yes, it can have destructive messaging. However, I'm also willing to own specifically where this falls into a product, a supply, and demand situation that looks exploitive. In reality, it's often an executive who cares nothing about our community. And so when an artist brings a song that doesn't affect his or her community, but somebody says this will actually sell, that executive is going to sign that paperwork. I absolutely get that same executive, if someone brings a song that affects or who he thinks he is based on his own perspective, based on his culture, who might say, oh, no, you're not going to put that message out about me or my culture. And I always challenge our community to, if what I just said makes sense, then I challenge our community to never expect another culture to give a damn about what you say about yourselves, or in this case, about ourselves. And so I don't attach a conspiracy and a plan to add to that when I get that this executives don't give a damn if it sells, and like Chuck D says, go to their, big ass house in the Hamptons, having made a bunch of money off of a rap artist on that label and a country label, the top two selling genres. That artist don't give a damn what the country artist say or the rap artist says if they selling like hell on their label. Don't give a damn as long as it sells. And I don't have no expectation that they would give a damn, because we do understand we live in a country that, as White Mike says, has normalized Black death. I am not saying that shit is okay. But I am challenging the nuance of understanding versus saying, hey, look at what they did. It's, no, come to understand the nuance of how these things work and what can we do to defend against it. That's the question that I'm asking. I'm going to